It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Breakfast, breaking down for you the Australian property market. And if you have decided to go ahead and buy or sell your property and have that age-old problem, gee, which agent do I work with? Don't forget, we've got that curated real estate list of agencies and agents right around Australia. All you do is let us know. You can email us your location and we will play matchmaker. Our email address is always myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. Working week starting to move along. It is a Thursday, August the 27th. Last weekend, did you attend an auction in Sydney? And if so, how many people actually showed up at the auction? Did the auction even start? Or were the numbers just not there for the auctioneer? And he said, well, can't continue. Did you see the disappointment on the auctioneer's face? The auctioneers, as well as real estate agents, they're in this market with us as well. It's affecting them. And if you have a look at the core numbers of last weekend, the clearance rate was around 54%. Now, historical context, this is a drastic drop compared to the 75 to 79.5% clearance rates recorded during the same period last year. The Sydney market now has spent 16 consecutive weeks with an auction clearance rate stuck below 60%. Median auction prices, they have gone down to 1.6 and change, which is roughly 7% lower than this time last year. Let's take you to Sydney right now, catch up with Chris Scerri from Scerri Auctions there. Welcome back, Chris, onto the Real Estate Breakfast. Yes, Sydney, it feels very different from the auction rooms of a year ago. Buyers were turning up back then, but now they're watching, they're waiting, they're negotiating. Sydney buyers are suddenly calling the shots.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Thanks for having me back. They certainly are. It's a very significant difference from what we were 12 months ago, as you just mentioned. The clearance rate sitting well over where we were sitting currently as we speak, 54%, as you mentioned, but same time last year, 74%. We're very much a buyer's marketplace that we're currently positioning ourselves in, and we have been for the last, call it 2-3 months.
Yeah, and I say that you guys are feeling this as much as anybody. Now, it's disappointing if somebody has turned up to an auction, they look around and then they suddenly realise they're the only person that is going to be doing any sort of bidding, and they're disappointed. You're disappointed. You know, we shouldn't forget real estate people because you are feeling it just as much as anybody else.
Yeah, definitely. Look, auctioneers and agents, all we're there to be able to maximise vendors' expectations as in resulting in a terrific price. It is being a little bit more creative now at the moment to be able to try and maximise that price, but it is good to be in a position that we've still got registered buyers at auctions. Don't forget, not every auction in Sydney at the moment has a registered buyer. Our stats for our business is sitting on an average of 2 buyers per auction, but clearance rates are significantly lower, which is reflecting potential results on weekends for those owners and midweeks.
How do you sort of approach that? Like, you know, you arrive and even registered bidders, sometimes they don't show up. And you can see very quickly, I would imagine, once you turn up and you're getting close to the auction, you can see it, you can smell it. Oh, this is not going well.
Yeah, you definitely can. Well, most agents, and 99.9% of agents will know exactly who is going to turn up, register, and potentially the only question we don't know is whether they're going to compete at that auction. All the hard work's been done prior to know. There are only a few auctions that we turn up with the unknown. Some of the comments and commentary is let's just turn up, hope and pray that someone does arrive to bid. In the event that they don't, let's push it to the side and just go through to phase 3, for sale, private treaty, post-auction. But you are right. Most of the time we do know who's going to be there. And at that time, if there is only the one registered buyer, it is a conversation rather than base it around an auction itself, because as you mentioned in the prelim, the numbers at the auction and the attendees is not a huge number. We had an auction on the weekend. We had 3 registered buyers. 2 of them were active. We only had about 10 people in this unit itself, where if you look back sort of 4 months, 5 months, 6 months ago, there just would have been better numbers inside those properties just to attend, to watch and see.
Yeah, the Sydney market at the moment, I think fair to say, has developed two personalities. Not a Jekyll and Hyde, well, not yet, meaning that you've got some desirable family properties. They're still attracting serious attention, while other areas in Sydney, they're struggling to get buyers over the line. How do you read all of that?
Definitely different areas are producing different results. For example, within the lower North Shore, we're still getting good numbers to return up, to register and to potentially compete as well. The actual visitors, the spectators, they're still within reason good numbers. We had a terrific family home. It was a Hampton style home, 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. We had 7 registered buyers, which is a little bit of against what we are seeing out there. However, the interesting statistic of that one, there was 7 registered. 5 of them decided not to even raise their hand. It was only the 2 buyers that were going backwards and forwards with one another. We ended up passing the property in, and credit to the agent and obviously the team that we're working with, we were able to get another $50,000 from that buyer, which resulted in a sale post-auction. So again, our strategy was not just to get scared and run away. It was to continue the process, continue the conversations. But we had, on that auction, we had probably over 100 people spectating within the local area, which 95% of that crowd was local neighbours.
Wow, that is a great result for you and the buyer and the vendor. So the auction crowd, they can look healthier than the result, meaning that you can have a room full of people and still have very little competition. That's another sort of strange thing that is happening in Sydney right now. Attendance doesn't necessarily translate into bidding, which you've talked about. You know, people, they are inspecting, they're researching, and they're waiting for somebody else to blink first. How much of that are you seeing? This whole, I'm going to wait for somebody else, man, to blink first. I'm not going to do it.
Oh, Craig, look, it's an interesting comment. And in any market, whether it's a terrific market, clearance rate sitting at high 80%, whether it's sitting at 30%, 40% where we're sitting now, that will always transpire. Some buyers, generally a lot of the buyers, will always want to hold back and wait to see what someone else does. So it is that first bid that you need to retract out of those buyers. But there is a lot of instances that we're turning up to those auctions with only one buyer, and then it goes straight into a conversation rather than an auction itself. A lot of the buyers are sitting on their hands, and there's many reasons behind that. There's a lot of caution in the wind. However, some properties out there, and there's a good amount of those homes, are still getting the good numbers coming through the properties, getting a couple of registered buyers, and then transpiring in really good results in its current marketplace as well. So the auction process, it just works so well. It's about shaking the tree, finding out who's going to actually attend, register, and compete to allow the vendors to attract that price that allows them not to pop the champagne, but allows them to move forward to that next point in their real estate career, whether it's selling to upgrade, whether it's selling to downsize, or potentially just sell that investment.
Yes, the psychology of everything that is going on, especially in the Sydney market. We are talking to Chris. He is there. He's an auctioneer, and we'll come back in just a moment. We'll talk about the gap between expectations and reality. More after this.
We help to break down real estate every day to help you better understand the Australian property market. Decode the property market with insider knowledge and insights to better navigate your real estate journey.
And just on that note too, as far as the auctions are concerned, let us know what you are experiencing on the ground. We'd love to hear from you. Our email, as always, is myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. Chris is with me from Scerri Auctions in Sydney. Yep, the market is all over the place at the moment. The gap between expectations and reality is widening. Some sellers are still looking backwards, remembering what similar properties achieved when buyers were competing hard out aggressively. They've got to wake up and smell the roses. You know, nobody's aggressively going hard out at the moment. Yes, there's competition in the market, but it's not last year. So I want to come back to that borrowing power and how that has changed. You know, we've got confidence, Chris. That has changed. And buyer behaviour, certainly that has changed. And vendors, they will slowly but surely come around to the fact that their prices aren't moving for a very good reason, and that is market conditions.
Yeah, look, market conditions are certainly changed. That is no doubt changed. Auction is still the only way to move forward, to be able to find out where the true value does sit. Yes, there are some vendors that are hoping and praying that they get 100, 200, 300 above what their bottom line is. If they're looking at downsizing, if they're looking at upgrading in a marketplace of what we're experiencing is incredible. If you're selling your property at $2 million and in the eastern suburbs, if the market's come back 10 to 15%, let's just use 10%, you've got $200,000 less on your property, which you should be taking, and then you buy a $4 million property, there's an extra $200,000 more profit that you've made on that next purchase. It is all about realising the market has come backwards. However, it's about where we're looking at going next, hence why there are so many transactions still taking place, and it will continue to go. But again, auction process, it's working a treat 99% of those times.
Yeah, you mentioned where do you go next. At the moment, what are you seeing when you're talking to vendors around the fact that they're cashing out of Sydney, they're moving maybe to the Gold Coast, maybe to Brisbane, maybe regionally into New South Wales? Is there much of that going on?
Look, to be honest, Craig, I haven't seen too much of it. I've seen it more sideways steps, whether it's reducing mortgages or whether it's selling those investments. Over the last few months, I've seen investors sell out of this marketplace, but there's not too many people that I'm seeing moving complete different regional areas, whether it's north, south or west. They are taking that sideways step or downsizing or potentially upgrading because, as mentioned, this market is a key market to be upgrading in, that's for sure, if you can do it.
And spring, now this could really test sellers more than buyers. More choice could give buyers even more confidence to negotiate, put in those terms, not so much in the auction space, but how are you reading this upcoming spring market? It's next month, it's not far away.
Yeah, it isn't very far away. Very delayed start is what I can say. Our spring numbers, September numbers, are the thinnest that we've seen on record. That hasn't started yet. The spring won't be spring as we see it this year, as far as I can see and our numbers can see. We are seeing a little bit of a slower start. You can only look at the last 2 months of numbers of what there is available stock-wise in New South Wales compared to what we were last year. July 600, July last year, 780 properties went to auction. August was 630, where last year 914. It's significantly less stock. However, I think we might see a bit of a delayed start, maybe start of October, and maybe have a late spring this year, but there's definitely not an early spring. Spring hasn't sprung just yet, Craig.
Yeah, it's going to, hopefully, fingers crossed. And there's a little bit of time now between the federal announcement with the tax changes, especially for investors. What have you seen sort of post federal budget, those announcements, those investors cashing out? How much of that has gone on in your corner?
Look, there's a bit of it taking place. It's just adding another layer of caution to the wind for potential purchasers out there and potential sellers, whether they hold out or whether they put their property on the marketplace. We might just see a little bit more of a turbulent end of the year. However, if you're looking at purchasing, this is the market to be purchasing. I think a lot of the buyers will look back and say they wish they would have bought middle to end of 2026 because there's some great opportunities out there, whether you're a potential vendor, upsizing as mentioned, or whether you're looking at purchasing.
And as we mentioned, it's a Thursday. How are you looking for this coming weekend for your auctions in Sydney?
This Saturday, we've got 5 scheduled left for myself out of a 9 that we had scheduled personally. The team have got some fairly good numbers within reason, but of those properties I've got left running, of those 5, we've got some different levels of buyer interest, from a property that's potentially got no one right through to a property we're potentially expecting 6 to 7 changes for. A little bit out of the ordinary with that number. However, it's a great opportunity as the vendors down in expectations where the buyer's feedback is around that 2.2 level. It's a very mixed result out there, but we still should see some good results throughout the weekend.
All right, we'll leave it there, Chris. Great to catch up with you again and enjoy your Thursday. Thanks for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast, giving us your lay of the land in the auction market there, and good luck moving into spring.
Thanks so much, Craig. Appreciate it.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.